My name is DIRK BRENGELMANN. As you just heard, I'm the Commissioner for International Cyber Policy in Berlin. I've been recently nominated to that job. I served as Assistant Secretary General of Political Affairs at NATO for some years before that, but I have always been a German diplomat by background. I'm very grateful to the host for this conference to have the opportunity to come here today for this conference, and also for some bilateral consultations which we are going to have with the Indian government this afternoon. This morning, I believe the National Security Advisor and the Minister set us on a good track for this discussion. I like the openness with which the Minister addressed some of the tensions in our debate. And I would also like to refer to an article which I had a chance to read in between in the so-called Cyber Monitor, the October Cyber Monitor of our host, the ORF, where Sami Saran has written about some of those issues. Given the revelations by Mr. Snowden, I think it's fair to say that in my country, the issue of privacy and data protection, which always was a very strong issue, has been even more prominent lately. I believe we have heard this morning also some of the other things which are very much in debate now, the catchword, so to say, technological sovereignty. I think we have heard something about this from some of the interventions this morning. And then we have the debate on the so-called internet governance. Also, I understood some of the speakers this morning to say that governance, the term governance in this is an oxymoron, but still we use it that way. And there will be some upcoming conferences where all of these issues will be dealt with at the end of this week at the International Cyber Conference in Seoul, and then next week at the so-called Internet Governance Forum in Indonesia. But let me come to the points which we have been asked to address here this morning. Hostile cyber actions are hard to address in terms of traditional security thinking, which requests that the best defense is to deter an enemy from attacking. Deterrence, however, requires that the consequences of any attack be clearly and credibly communicated to any potential adversary. This can be, or this is rather difficult in cyberspace. Actors do not need to be states. The Council of Europe acknowledged that as early as 2001, when it agreed a cybercrime convention. The convention was spurred by concerns that computer networks and electronic information may be used for committing criminal offenses. The step from common crime to politically motivated acts and even terrorism is not far. Whereas in traditional interstate conflict, the opposing sides are well known, this is not the case in cyberspace. Perpetrators show great skill in hiding behind multiple screens. So consequently, uncertainty about the origin of hostile cyber action is a characteristic of cyber conflict. I mentioned the Budapest Convention of the Council of Europe, and it's of utmost interest for us for two reasons. The first reason, it is, to my knowledge, the only legally binding international treaty specifically designed for cyberspace, and secondly, it has been concluded within the Council of Europe, that is a regional organization, by the way, should not be confused with the European Council of the European Union, but nonetheless, and that is an important point here, it's open for signature by countries outside Europe. So the countries which have signed it, and I just try to give you the names of those who have done so far, include Australia, Canada, and the United States. I think most of you would argue that may not be a surprise so far, but the list goes on, and it does include countries like the Dominican Republic, Japan, and South Africa. So it does show that there may be a good room and space for this convention. So in our mind, with this, Budapest Convention, we don't believe that another cybercrime convention is necessary. Some countries do, and we accept that, do have difficulties with the Budapest Convention because they feel that cross-border investigations might inflict on their national sovereignty. With this reasoning, for example, Russia is not a signatory, although it's a member of the Council of Europe. The argument is well known, and we will have to examine whether traditional concepts of sovereignty and territoriality are fully applicable to a global cyberspace. Anyway, countries not wishing to sign the convention can still use its principles to adapt their own respective national laws, and this is actually done by some 100 countries worldwide. It's worth noting the Budapest Convention's purview is, as I just said, international cooperation in combating computer crime. No more, not less. But the convention does not deal with cybersecurity in the sense of network and information system security, nor with cybersecurity in the sense of international peace and security or prevention of cyber war. This brings us to the question whether or not international cybersecurity can be regulated by instruments binding under international law, like a Convention on International Information Society. Germany and most other countries are not convinced by this idea. We think it would be a problematic concept. But we do refer to a broad recognition among many states that existing international law serves as the appropriate framework applicable to activity in cyberspace. Despite the particular character of the Internet, established international criteria and legal frameworks remain the same. So, an international consensus is emerging that states are responsible for cyber actions taken from their territory. And in this respect, I would like to refer to the important work of the so-called group of government experts in the UN framework, and they found that state sovereignty and international norms and principles that flow from sovereignty apply to state conduct of ICT-related activities and to their jurisdiction over ICT infrastructure within their territory. Sounds quite simple, but we nevertheless believe that it's an important contribution of that group, and the Budapest Convention, we believe, is a proof that international treaties should not be excluded from the outset, but as I said, we are a little skeptical that we do need much more. We rather would like to hope to see an acceptance of the report of the group of governmental experts and a mandate for that group to continue its work and to look at norms and confidence security building measures is another important part of that work. Actually also takes place in other fora, but also within the context of the group's work. This would be all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And